It began with a map. France to the west, Germany to the east, two neighbors whose shared frontier would soon reshape Europe. By 1870, France remained one of Europe's great powers. Across the frontier, Prussia was rapidly changing the balance of the continent. France looked secure behind its fortified eastern cities, while Prussian forces quietly began concentrating closer to the frontier. Prussia had spent years building alliances, railways, and military coordination, binding the German states into an increasingly powerful system. Then diplomacy began to fail. National pride surged on both sides, and armies started moving toward the same narrow frontier. By July 1870, the frontier had become a loaded weapon. One political decision was all it would take to fire it. On July 19th, France declared war on Prussia, expecting an offensive campaign and a rapid victory across the border. The French advance was real, but shallow. It stalled almost immediately as commanders discovered that the enemy was mobilizing far faster than expected. Prussia's railway system now became a weapon. Troops poured toward the frontier from across the German states in coordinated waves. The numerical balance at the frontier changed almost overnight. French units that had advanced first were suddenly facing a much larger enemy concentration. France had opened the war, but now the initiative was slipping away as German armies gathered for the counterattack that would change everything. Then the German counterattack began. Red formations surged toward the frontier, striking French positions before they could fully reorganize. At Wissembourg, the first major blow landed. An isolated French position was overwhelmed, opening a breach along the northern frontier. The breach widened quickly. German flags crossed onto French soil while surviving French formations fell back towards stronger defensive positions. Further south, another German attack struck at Wörth, placing a second part of the French frontier under enormous pressure. French resistance at Wörth broke apart. A second gap opened, and German forces began pouring deeper into eastern France. At Spicheren, another French position came under attack. The defeats were no longer isolated. They were becoming a collapsing frontier. Spicheren also fell. Across the border region, French formations withdrew as German armies advanced through the broken defensive line. Only weeks into the war, the fighting had already shifted onto French territory. German armies now pushed west from several directions. A large French force retreated toward Metz, hoping the fortress city could stabilize the front and stop the German advance. But German commanders moved around Metz instead. Red formations swept around both flanks, threatening to close every road of escape. The trap around Metz now closed. German forces cut the remaining routes, leaving a massive French army isolated inside the fortress zone. France could not abandon such a huge force. A new army gathered farther west and began marching northeast to relieve Metz. But the German command detected the movement. Red armies turned north, racing to intercept the French relief force before it could reach Metz. Under growing pressure, the French army was forced farther north, away from Metz and toward the fortified town of Sedan. By the end of August, German formations were closing from several directions. The French army around Sedan was running out of room. On September 1st, 1870, the Battle of Sedan erupted. German armies closed the ring and attacked the trapped French positions. There was nowhere left to go. Surrounded and battered, the French army collapsed, and Emperor Napoleon III surrendered. The surrender shattered Napoleon's empire. In Paris, the monarchy fell and a new French Republic declared that the war would continue. German armies marched toward Paris. By September, the capital was surrounded, its roads and supply lines cut one by one. France was now fighting on two fronts, Paris under siege, while the enormous trapped army at Metz remained cut off in the east.